Hey, I'm back again with another DDR video. Where was I? I think in my last video I was just kind of like level setting and just talking about where I was personally in DDR around the beginning of 2004. So this video is going to be about like the 2004 DDR scene in New York City and like what it was, at least from my point of view anyway. You know, coming out of the previous time period with DDR, Stefan wasn't in the city anymore, and we kind of just hadn't heard from him. He was just doing his own thing. I had completely set myself apart from the competition at this point in time. There was other people in the city who were really good, but I really just made a statement with a lot of the songs and the edits that I was playing. And I was cool. I pretty much had good rapport with almost everybody in New York City. I don't know that I had too many like official rivals. I didn't really have bad blood with anybody as far as I remember. I had arguments on DDR Freak here and there. I was very opinionated, but for the most part, I had set myself apart. Me setting myself apart started in the beginning of Extreme, and even before that, like I had been talking about stealth stuff, and I had always tried to set myself apart in some way or another. But in the beginning of Extreme, I forgot to mention that when they came out with the new Oni courses, everybody kind of just grabbed Oni courses. Like all the Oni courses were up for grabs, and a lot of us, like, it was just cool to have your own Oni course and do your own thing, and then maybe you would compete in the Oni course scores with other people in other regions or other states around the country or like in your area. So I gravitated toward, I just wanted to bring this up real quick because it did have an effect on like my competitive DDR aspect. Was I grabbed the Dancemania Oni course. And I don't remember exactly what it was about Dancemania that I liked, but I feel like it was Captain Jack. I think that's what it was. I think it was Captain Jack, because what was happening was like we all needed songs for tournaments, and I think Dancemania had Rhythm and Police in it. It might have had Rhythm and Police in it. But what it was also is that it had the song Captain Jack, and I think Captain Jack had been from Third Mix. It was one of the older mixes had Captain Jack. I think Captain Jack might have been on Fifth Mix. I don't remember exactly. And then it was on Extreme. So I was playing Dancemania a lot. And one thing that I forgot to mention for anybody who doesn't play DDR was that in Extreme, when you played an Oni course or when you played a non-stop course, it gave us a new step grading called Marvelous, which was more accurate than perfect. So I was playing Dancemania a lot, and Dancemania wound up becoming my Oni course. When I decided to stop playing Dancemania, I was getting like less than 20 greats on the whole Oni course. I don't remember what my perfect count was. I don't know if I got it under 100 perfects, but I was going in on Dancemania, and I think the only other person who was okay at Dancemania around this time, from what I remember anyway, was Vagrant Fiend. Even though he had stopped competing, he was kind of playing the Oni course. I remember him playing Dancemania a little bit. The memory that I have from Dancemania was I remember going out to Connecticut when like this is before 123 Kid moved to Connecticut, I believe, but he knew people out there. They had a really cool arcade out there. I don't remember the name of the arcade, but we all went out there on a train one day, and I remember walking from the train station. It was a Metro North train. We walked from the Metro North train station all the way to the arcade. It was like an hour walk. It was a really long walk, but I think that we found out after we walked that we took like a long route, because I think we were following Stefan or somebody. but it was actually only like a 15-minute walk. We just took the long way or something like that. We went to that arcade, and I remember going to that arcade and getting like over a certain amount of points on Dancemania. I don't remember what the range of points was around that time for it to be considered a good score. Let's just say it was 7,600. I don't remember what it was. And I think like to break 7,600 or 7,700 or whatever the score, like 56 or 50, I think 7,000 was like, maybe that was like Legend Road, I don't know, but let's just say it was like 56 or 5,700 for Dancemania. Like either nobody had done it or not a lot of people had done it in our region of the country. And I remember going out to that arcade, and one of the first things I did, I was like, I'm going to take the Dancemania score off of this machine. And I played it, and I took the highest Dancemania score off of that machine. And I think that's when I just stopped playing it. I was like happy with that score, and I just left it alone. I was like, I did it. But I had Captain Jack, so nobody could pick that on me because everybody knew that Dancemania was kind of my only course. So nobody was going to go into a tournament and pick Captain Jack on me if I was getting under 20 greats on the entire Oni course when I was playing it. Anyway, that was a little bit of a tangent. So back to 2004. I had touched a little bit on DDPD in my previous video. So I had me and all my friends and people that I was hanging out with in New York City. And, tournaments were in full swing. Me and Fat Axel and Jinx and Adam STF and anybody else that we played with we were playing and we were trying to get as many perfects as we could, but like the thing was that we cared about who had the highest skill level, not so much how many AAAs people had. And AAAs in New York City around this time, from our perspective, wound up being looked upon the same way the bar was looked upon and the same way that speed mods were looked upon. And I don't mean just like AAAs by itself. It was really the way people were going about getting them. Because what it was people would go to the arcade, and this wasn't just in New York City, this was like all over the place. They would go to the arcade and they would play a song over and over and over and over again until they would get AAAs. And we felt like that wasn't an authentic representation of a person's skill level, because what they were doing was then they were taking pictures of these AAAs and then they were putting them up, and it gave this facade like somebody could AAA, somebody had the ability to on command AAA a song, when in reality it was like this person might have played Xenon 8 times that day, sometimes in a row consecutively, until they AAA'd it. Now, it wasn't until like years later where I came to terms and realized like that was just the way that people chose to play. I think our gripe was that people were confusing that and like competitive skill level, and those two things weren't the same. They weren't the same because like in these tournaments, I didn't do that. Like me and Jinx and Fat Axel did not do that. There were only 2 times where I attempted to go into like AAA mode and like actually consciously try to AAA a song by playing it over and over. But generally I did not do that. We did not like that because we didn't like what people were confusing it with. And in all these tournaments, like after the Broadway City tournament, a lot of the New York City tournaments went back to like Perfect Attack as the tournament format, because these AAAs never helped anybody against me and Fat Axel and Jinx. People would come like I would play people, whether it was people who were out of state or people who lived in New York City, and a lot of the people, even in New York City, like Chris Fire and Dino, like they did play shuffle and options, but they also had a lot of AAAs. Big Matt had a lot of AAAs. Sarcastic Mofo had a lot of AAAs. And then there were people in the surrounding areas. People in New Jersey had a lot of AAAs, and so on and so forth. Technic had a lot of AAAs. Reflex had a lot of AAAs. And they would play me in these tournaments, and they would pick a song that they were able to AAA. I don't know, like Cartoon Heroes, right? Somebody would pick Cartoon Heroes on me because they had AAA'd it. And they would look on my, like, I had like an NNR account, which was a website that kept track of people's scores. and they would probably look at it and they would be like, I don't see a AAA for Cartoon Heroes for sketch. So they would pick Cartoon Heroes on me. The thing was that I had gotten under 5 greats on everything in DDR Extreme by 2004. And to me, if I could play a song and get under 5 greats and the greats weren't in one specific area of the song, then I was happy with it. I didn't need to AAA it. What I needed to do was get better at playing songs on shuffle and playing on options, and to enhance my skill level and me being able to do more difficult stuff. That's what I needed to do, not AAA something. So they would pick Cartoon Heroes on me, and I would get like 2 greats on Cartoon Heroes, and they would get like 3 or 4 greats. So most of the time I would beat people on their own picks. People picking like 8, 9 footers. Sometimes people would try picking 10 footers on me to think like, that was like a mistake, because I was better at 10 footers than pretty much everybody at the time too. So I think that this is where I kind of lose a lot of people in terms of like how I thought about DDR, or like at the time period. If anybody was watching around this time period, like I got into like a lot of, this is when I started to getting into disagreements and arguments with people, especially on Aaron in Japan and on the forums. When people met me in person, like face to face, it was all love. Like a lot of times people realize like the passion that I had about DDR and where I was coming from, but like I think typing it out, it just never translated well. But like these AAAs, like they never helped anybody in these tournaments. They never actually helped anybody in these tournaments. The tournaments kind of, I don't know in which order I want to talk about this, but maybe I'll talk about it like this. So, and it wasn't just me. It was Fat Axel, it was Jinx, it was Adam STF, it was anybody in New York City. We were all playing crazy edits. And, I did wind up at the end of it all with anywhere between 15 to 25 AAAs. I didn't care about, and when I would AAA stuff, I didn't even care. Because it just, most of the time, it was just like whatever. I had people take pictures of my AAAs and then show me later on. Stuff like I just didn't even care. I was like so far ahead in terms of like where I was thinking that I wanted to go in terms of skill level, that if I would AAA stuff and people would swear that they saw me AAA, and then there have been at least 2 or 3 instances where people show me a picture of like me AAA something. People say that I AAA Max 300. They just saw me AAA Max 300. I don't remember that. Like, I don't think I did, but there are people who swear that they saw me AAA Max 300. I don't remember that. I remember Black Flag and Max 300, but I didn't care about that either. Like, I just didn't care about that kind of stuff. And I also want to talk about like media capturing, maybe at some point in this video or maybe later on down the line. But the other issue that I had with a lot of these tournaments and tournament formatting was that the 2 out of 3 tournament format. I hated 2 out of 3. I came to hate 2 out of 3. And my first 2 out of 3 tournament that I remember that I lost, that I thought was a little, it caught my attention in terms of the format, was the Sports World Tournament. I think it was the year after Deshaun won. There was another Sports World Tournament. And I remember being in that tournament. And this was before I was able to AA PSMO. But I was getting like a high A's, like around 70 or 80 greats, and like enough misses so that I wasn't getting a AA. And I played this DDR player from New Jersey, 10. And 10 was a pretty decent DDR player. He was one of the best DDR players in New Jersey around like the 5th mix and the 7th mix era in the beginning of Extreme. And I remember playing 10, and this tournament was 2 out of 3, meaning that if you played when you played a song, whoever had more perfects, it equated to like 1 point. And so then the next song would play, and then whoever had more perfects, it would equate to another point. And if player A got more perfects on the first song, they got 1 point. If player B got more perfects on the second song, they had 1 point. And then they would go into the third song. The third song was like a random pick usually. And whoever got more perfects on the third song that was their second point, and then they would win the match. The problem with that was that no matter how bad you beat the person on their song, you would just get the 1 point. And it created weird scenarios where like sometimes people would stop playing the song entirely to conserve energy. Like if you picked a 10-footer on somebody and there was nothing in the rules that said that if the person failed the song, they were eliminated, a lot of times people would just stop playing and fail the song in order to conserve energy for the next song. So you would beat them by 300 perfects because they just failed. They just stopped playing. But it wasn't that you beat them by that many more perfects. You just got the 1 point. Or even if they tried, like if there was a rule that said like you couldn't fail a song, because I think after a while people were like, if you fail a song, then you automatically lose the match. So then people would like, you would beat people by so much in the song that you picked, or if it was a 10-footer, you would beat them by like 150 perfects, like 80 perfects, 70 perfects, 200 perfects. And then they would beat you in a song like an easy 7-footer. Like say I played somebody, and this is exactly what happened when I played 10 in the Sports World Tournament. I picked PSMO on him because I was good enough that I was getting like a high A on PS. I was like almost double A in it. And he got like a C on it. Like he barely passed the song. Like he wasn't good at it. I remember him being really annoyed that I picked it on him. But I don't know why, because I was okay at PSMO. So I picked it on him. I got an A, and I remember getting like 80 something greats on it. And he got like a C. He barely passed it. And then the second song, I think he picked Insertion on me or something like that. And I remember getting like 12 greats and him getting like 10. He beat me by like 2 perfects. So think about that. I beat him by like a couple hundred perfects. And he beat me by 2 perfects, but now we're even. Like that just, to me, this it didn't make any sense. Like that wasn't fair to me. And then the third song, I think it was Dam Dadi Dam on shuffle. And I think I got like 7 greats. He got like 6 or 5. He barely beat me on that song too. But he won the set because on the second song and the third song, he got more perfects than me. But he barely got more perfects than me. And especially when you're beating somebody, and somebody's beating somebody else by like less than 1%, like less than 1%, somebody could have sneezed the wrong way in the room, or like changed the direction of like a fan in the room, and I could have beaten him. Like that's how close it was. But if I'm beating you on a song by 100 perfects, 30 perfects, 80 perfects, then like I think that I don't even think that tells me that I'm the better player. If he had picked Insertion on me, and for some weird reason I was able to do PSMO and not Insertion, and I failed Insertion, or I got like a C on Insertion and he double A'd it, then okay, like that kind of shows like maybe we are even, maybe we are like there's a little bit of a gap, a skill gap. But it wasn't like that. It was like that tournament, that was the first time where I was just like, this doesn't seem right. I lost to 10 by having like over 200 more perfects than him at the end of the set. So that kind of caught my attention in terms of that rule. And then the second tournament, I remember playing, Technic had come down from, he had flown down from like the Rochester, Syracuse area. He would come down, it was fun, he would come down for the weekend, and he would crash at my house for the weekend. And this was like an NYDS tournament. It wasn't a huge tournament, but it was an NYDS tournament. At the time, me and him were good friends. We went into the tournament, and it was a 2 out of 3 tournament. And by this time, I was just like, I had entered the tournament, but I knew that there was a chance that I was going to lose by this 2 out of 3 rule, especially to Technic, because he had a lot of AAAs. So this was another instance where I knew he wasn't good at Xenon at the time. I picked Xenon on him. I think I got like under 20 greats. This is around the time that Xenon was still kind of kicking people's ass because it was just like a weird song. I had known how to play Xenon. I don't know. I got between 5 and 15 greats. I don't remember how much I got. And he he got like 40 to 50 greats. He just wasn't good at Xenon at the time, and I knew that. So I beat him on Xenon by a lot, but it was still like I just had 1 point over him. So then he picked So Deep on me, and he beat me at So Deep, but he didn't beat me by that much. Now we're even. Now, like, I beat him on Xenon by like anywhere between 20 to 50 perfects. And then he beats me on So Deep by like less than 10 perfects, but we're even. Like, I didn't see it that way. And the third song was some easy 7-footer. He beat me on that. And he I don't know if it was double elimination or single elimination, or maybe I played him twice. I don't remember, but he beat me in that tournament. And I remember circling the block in NYDS. Like, sometimes a lot of us would do that, like going around that block in Woodside and just feeling really crappy. Like, I was by myself. I remember I was talking to somebody on the phone, on my cell phone, talking about like, I don't really like the way that this feels. At the end of the set, I had more perfects than him, but I had lost to him by such a small amount on his pick and the random pick. The last time that this happened to me, I went to a tournament somewhere in New Jersey. It was this arcade deep in New Jersey. There's a DDR player from New Jersey named Jai. I think this was like, I don't know if this was his home arcade, but I used to see him there a lot. This was like Ash at this time. Devil in Black lived in New Jersey, and I think he had put us onto this arcade, so we would go out there. We would take the New Jersey light rail. It was a good arcade in the sense that, like, you got your bang for your buck. It was like 5 songs for $1 at this arcade. And I remember going out there, and their best player at the time, I forgot his nickname. And he was a cool guy. Like, this is nothing against him specifically. It was just, I just didn't like the way that this felt. And going out there, and this was a 2 out of 3 tournament. And driving out there, it was me. I think Fat Axel was there. I believe Devil in Black was there. Adam STF drove us out there. And playing this guy in grand finals, and picking max 300 on him. And this was well into like me being like the best in New York City, and me making really making a name for myself where people knew who I was. I was stealthing the 10-footers. I was like SDGing the 10-footers. Like, I would warm up with 10-footers. Like, that was the first thing I would play at this time was like max 300. I was gearing up to like double-Aing all the 10-footers on shuffle and playing them on options. And I went out to this tournament, and me and this guy made it to the finals. And I remember I picked max 300 on him, just like to pick it. And either he failed or he got a really bad score on max 300. And I had gotten like, I don't know, like either SDG'd it or got like 15, 20 greats on it. I had beat him by like a lot of perfects. And then he picked like a slow song, like one of them like 90 beats per minute Sana or like Orion or something like that, or Let the Beat Hit Him. And I think he got like 1 grade on it or something like that. He did okay on it. And I think I was like, I see where this is going. Like, we didn't even play the third song yet, and I was like, I see where this is going. And the third song was some easy 7-footer, and he beat me. And he beat me, and then I remember looking at the result screen and having like a couple hundred more perfects than him, or like a lot more perfects than him. And I felt like it just did not feel good to lose like that, to lose by winning by like having more perfects. And that's not to take away from this victory, because I was full aware of the rules when I went into this tournament. But I remember driving back from this tournament with Adam STF and saying, like, I think I said it in the car out loud. I was like, I'm never entering one of these tournaments again. I had it with 2 out of 3. I didn't feel like it was fair. And I've gone back and forth with people so many times on the DDR Freak forums about 2 out of 3 formatting. And I think a lot of tournament organizers did it to save time, because like if somebody had won the first song and won the second song, they didn't even go into the third song, because like you could save a lot of time doing 2 out of 3, but it wasn't a good representation of who was better, especially if people were losing by such a small margin. Like if I pick a song on you and during my pick, you lose to me by 50 perfects, 100 perfects, 200 perfects. You could barely pass the song, and I get 5 greats on PSMO, and then you pick Let the Beat Hit 'Em, and let's say on a good day you AAA it, and I get 1 great. We're even in a 2 out of 3 tournament, but we're not even, bro. Like if we played Let the Beat Hit 'Em again, I might beat you. There's no way if I pick PSMO on you and I get 3 greats on PSMO, and you get a C or you get a B, if we play PSMO again, you're not gonna get that score again. That's maybe you'll hype yourself up and get an A, but you're not gonna get like 3 greats on it. I'll play it again, I might get 2 greats or 7 greats. That's my range. That's not your range though. And if I play Let the Beat Hit 'Em and I lose to you because I got 2 greats and you AAA'd it, we could play it again. You might get 2 greats and I might AAA it because I'm in your range, but you're not in my range. And like I could talk about this forever, but like I really did not like 2 out of 3. I understood that there was a little bit of merit to it, and maybe like along down the line when everybody was able to AAA everything, maybe it made more sense. But like if you're not even in my range of percentage, like you're not even within 10% of the amount of perfects I'm getting. And this was one of the driving factors in playing DDR and just not. Like I felt like we should be doing tournaments to see who was the best, you know? That's where I came from. And maybe not everybody saw it that way. So in New York, we eventually settled on like perfect attack. Whoever had the most perfects at the end of the set was the better player, and they are the ones who won the set. There was we didn't really do too many 2 out of 3 tournaments, and if there was any more after that Sports World tournament and that NYDS tournament with Technic, and then that New Jersey tournament, I didn't enter them anymore because I wasn't gonna lose like that. It was such a horrible feeling to put so much time and effort into DDR to lose to somebody by plus 100 perfects. Like it just didn't make any sense. South Beach Arcade used to do a lot of tournaments. That was in Staten Island. They had a good arcade. The arcade owners let the players out there kind of tend to the machine, and they would take care of the machine pretty good. They had memory card slots, so I would go out there with my memory cards, and I would play. Either this video is going to be long, or I'm going to split it up into 2 videos. I might just go in on this video and it'll wind up being like an hour or something like that. But South Beach Arcade used to do good DDR tournaments. There was another arcade in Staten Island called Fun Station, and they would do tournaments, but I think after a while those machines kind of fell apart a little bit. But you know, we had a ball going out to Staten Island to play with Dino and Chris Fire, and they had other players, Maurice, Lewis. They had a couple of good female DDR players, Angela. Every once in a while somebody new from Staten Island would pop up and they would AAA this or AAA that, and you'd be like, do I have to watch out for this person? But it always came back to Chris Fire and Dino. So there was them, and then NYDS would continuously do tournaments, and they always did good tournaments. Long Island would do good tournaments. And this arcade in Long Island called FYE did really good tournaments, which I'll come back to in a second. And also this arcade in this place called Tri-County Flea Market, we called it TCF. And I won 2 or 3 tournaments over there too. That was a really cool arcade. I used to love going to TCF. So around this time, the competition in New York City boiled down to, it was Chris Fire, it was Dino, it was Jinx, it was Big Matt. Sarcastic Mofo was still a factor, but I think at this point he had kind of shown a little bit of disdain for 10-footers. And the thing about Jeff was that he always progressed in DDR. I just don't think he progressed fast enough, or as fast as me and Stefan and Angel and Andre, and I think he had just gotten sick of like people picking 10-footers on him. But even he was still a factor. And then Osh, Devil in Black was still a factor. Adam STF, if I didn't say him already, he was still a factor. And then people from out of state would come through. So like, you still have to watch out for Reflex. Like if Reflex showed up at a tournament, you'd have to watch out because like he could easily take it. And then sometimes Qkumbr would come through, and you'd have to watch out for him as well. But aside from those 2 out of 3 tournaments that I spoke about, when I was like in full swing, nobody ever beat me in a perfect attack tournament except for one person, which I'll get to. So all of these people were like a factor, and I couldn't just show up to a tournament and win like easily because I had to like make sure that I was on my A game when I played. If any one of those people were in the tournament. And that's not even like, I'm talking about like people who were just like in the city, but there was also like Fat Axel and there was Jinx. And like the only reason that it was like not as big of a problem to play against Fat Axel or Jinx was because they were my best friends. So I played with them all the time. So like I knew exactly what to pick on Angel or Andre because I played with them. But they were arguably top 5 and they were top 5 in the city. So like if Reflex wasn't coming through or Qkumbr wasn't coming through, it was gonna be Chris Fire or Dino or Big Matt or Fat Axel or Jinx. And maybe Devil in Black would place top 3 also. You just didn't know, depending on how it seeded. In 2004, there was this one tournament in particular. This is still when Legend Road was still kind of difficult to pass. People were playing it, but it still was like a factor because even though people were getting around to doubling some of the 10-footers or maybe getting low digit greats on the 10-footers, the fact that Legend Road was such a stamina drainer still in 2004, and I know people might find that to be funny now, like people who play DDR, but this was still, to still have to play these songs consecutively was still difficult. And there was this one tournament in Long Island in Tri-County Flea Market that I went to. Now, to back up a little bit, before this tournament, I had just been obsessed with PSMO. Like it kind of like took over my identity in terms of like playing DDR, and I only cared about PSMO and how difficult it was. And I had gotten to a point where I double eighted. My grade counts were lower and lower, and I kind of hit a wall around the 30 to 40 grades area. Sometimes I would full combo it. Sometimes I would get like a good here and there. But I was like, I think nobody else in the city aside from Chris Fire and Big Matt were like coming close to like my PSMO. They were like almost as good as me at the song, but not exactly. And then I remember going upstate to play DDR. I had family up there, so I was visiting my cousin Jason, and I also went to this arcade, and I think Reflex was there too. This is just a meetup. Like I just went up there to meet up with people. There was a player from I think the Kingston area. I think his nickname was the Vicious Nematode. I think his name was Kevin. He was actually kind of good too. I think he was 1x no bar. So I decided to take a trip upstate. We would just randomly do that, just to travel and play DDR. And my cousin Jason was driving me to all these arcades. And I remember playing PSMO that day. I might have played it like 10 times that day. I don't remember the name of the arcade. It was this arcade that had like these water bumper cars and like mini golf, and that day I played PSMO and I had cracked 30 greats. I had gotten under 30 greats on PSMO. So this was like, I was like, wow, like, okay. And I think I was really like quiet about it. I didn't want people to know because I wanted to use this against people in the tournament. And I think this TCF tournament was coming up. So I was playing it. I was getting like mid-20s, 25 greats, 24 greats and a miss, 26 greats. Came back to the city. And the Thursday and the Friday before the TCF tournament, I went up to this arcade called Fun World in this Bruckner shopping plaza in the Bronx. And I liked playing there too. They had a decent machine with memory card slots, and I remember playing PSMO there the day before this TCF tournament and getting like low 20 grades, like 22 grades, 21 grades in a miss. So even that amount of grades on PSMO was still good. Like, I don't think that you really weren't seeing that. And I don't really know where the rest of the country or the world was in PSMO, but I remember being like, this was a really, really good score on PSMO. This is a 1x no bar. So we get to the TCF tournament, and Chris Fire was there. And I like I said, like, he was really, really good. And I have a video of this. There's no audio, but I don't know who recorded it. It might have been Adam STF, but I have video of us playing, and in the finals we played PSMO, and I got 15 greats and a good, and Chris Fire got like 29 greats. Like, he was no slouch at it. Like, at that time, like, that was still good PSMO. Like, if I had played PSMO and got 29 greats back then, people would have still been like, yo, that's crazy. But I think I picked it on him. 1x no bar, and man, watching that video, I was eating that end run with all the twists. I was eating those arrows up, and at the end of the video, I got 15 greats, and I got a good on like the second or third to last step. I basically full comboed the whole song, I think. And I remember jumping off the pad and running to the back of the arcade and doing like the Tiger Woods, like jump in the air and like fist punch. And that score was really good. I don't know exactly where the world was at that time, but that was under 20 grades was good. But I had clearly gotten under 20 grades. I had gotten like 15 grades and a good. And I won that tournament, and that was that same day. That was the first time that I passed Ledger Road. And I think I had a picture of it, but I did pass Ledger Road, and I was still like first, like one of the first 20 people in the country to pass it around this time, I believe. It was still impressive to pass Ledger Road. And I got a decent score on it. I think I had gotten like maybe a little bit more than 100 grades or somewhere around the neighborhood, but just to pass it was good. So this is like, tournaments were everything. I feel like tournaments were a good representation. Again, keep in mind, like, at this time, I had maybe like 2 AAAs. Maybe I think AAA Freckles and El Ritmo Tropical or something like that. But it didn't matter, because like, it's not that I couldn't AAA stuff. It was that I didn't try to. Like, if I played something because somebody picked it on me in a tournament, I would play it and get my like 1 grade, 2 grades. Just like them. I just didn't play something over and over and over. And then when I got the AAA, I took the picture of it. That's not what I did. All I cared about was like showing how good I was in a tournament setting, in a competitive setting. And like, that's what mattered to me. The FYE tournament was the one where me and Angel played Leisure Road without the bar. And that was the one that we recorded it. That was Devil in Black's mom's camera, and we were taking it around and recording it, and I got a lot of good footage with that camera. But that video floated around the internet for a while, and I'm surprised, because like, it always felt like I had a difficult time getting my content on Aaron in Japan for some reason. Like, it just seemed like it was, like I had mentioned, like, it was more, the community was more so going toward the AAA route, and if you didn't have a AAA, this just might have been a coincidence. Like, it might have been a coincidence, but it just seemed like it was hard for me to get my stuff to stay up, to either get on Aaron in Japan or stay up on Aaron in Japan. I would submit it. It didn't seem like it was like favorable to put New York stuff on Aaron in Japan. Again, that could have been a coincidence. It just, at the time, it didn't seem that way. But that Legend Road video where me and Fat Axel played Legend Road, I passed it without the bar. He made it up to PSMO. That video stayed up on Aaron in Japan. At least it did for a while. And that video kind of put us in the spotlight. I remember shouting out Pickles in that video. This is around the time that Pickles was like up and coming, and like, he was 1x no bar. He was like a player from Canada who who was really good at DDR. So that was a good tournament, and that was good content that we got where I passed it. Shortly after that video, I had stopped playing Legend Road. Like I was just so hell bent on like taking my skill level further that I didn't want to focus on like score so much in terms of like I knew I could get like good scores. I had gotten like by this time around like the end of like by the time 2004 I played out, I had flagged the Legend of Max. I flagged Max 300. My best on Max Unlimited was 2 greats, but I had regularly gotten under 5 greats on Max Unlimited. By this time, I had started playing with the bar, and I felt like if anybody was gonna call me out for playing with the bar, I was okay with it as long as they could do better than me. But nobody was doing better than me without the bar. Like my scores, my best on Max 300 without the bar and with the bar was 1 grade. I flagged it. And that wasn't even like, that was just me randomly picking it to warm up like the first or second song of the day. And then my best on Max Unlimited with the bar was 2 greats. My best on Max Unlimited without the bar was 4 greats. Again, this is 2004. But these are scores that were easily reproducible by me. My best on LOM with and without the bar was 1 grade. I had flagged that. My best on Paranoid Survivor was 1 grade with the bar and 2 greats without the bar. But I remember feeling more comfortable playing Paranoid Survivor without the bar. Like I didn't like playing it with the bar. My best on PSM Heavy was 4 greats, but nobody really played PSM Heavy too much. The song got overshadowed by PSMO, but I didn't really care about PSM Heavy. I think I got 4 greats on PSM Heavy a couple times. My best on PSMO was 3 greats with the bar, 4 greats without. But I had gotten that score. I'd gotten 4 greats more than one occasion without the bar. But for me, it was under 5 greats, and as long as the greats weren't in the same place in the song. If I had gotten random greats and it was under 5 greats, I felt like it was random. Little did we know, for anybody who used to play DDR who doesn't play anymore, I'm probably not explaining this correctly, but there was an issue in DDR, the older DDRs, or at least DDR Extreme. They called it the poll rating issue. And I've had this explained to me quite a few times, and I understand it when people explain it to me. But I can never explain it myself. I've had Spencer and Steve explain this to me, and it just blew my mind. So like when I used to play DDR, I didn't really like blaming the pad a lot. Like I didn't like saying pad greats. Pad misses made sense to me, but to me pad greats never made sense really, unless we all knew that this pad was like busted, right? And I was never into like being like, oh, I AAA'd this song, but I got a pad grade. Just like it felt like greats and perfects were too close. No, you just got a great. But I did feel like I would get random greats in the songs. Like I just felt like back when I played Extreme, I would be doing great. No pun intended. I would be doing okay on a song, and I would just get a great. But I would always just chalk it up to like I gotta step my shit up, like just focus harder. But little did I know that there was this poll rating issue where I'm gonna try to explain it, and I'm probably gonna butcher this explanation. But from the way that I know it is that in the older mixes, because they ran at 30 beats per minute, there were certain songs that had something called magic BPMs, where the beats per minute of a song lined up really well with the amount of pictures that flashed on the screen, aka the frame rate, 30 beats per minute. So I think it was songs that were evenly divisible by 30. So like if a song was like 30 beats per minute, 60 beats per minute, 90 beats per minute, 120 beats per minute, 150 beats per minute, I think that's what it was. if you had a magic BPM, it was much easier to AAA a song. But if you didn't fall on that magic BPM, then sometimes you would step on an arrow and like the frame would gravitate toward like the next frame or something because the BPM didn't line up, and you would just get the grade. And so when I heard that when I started playing DDR Ace, and I was like, oh wow, really? Like that explains it. Like I was never too salty about like all the black flags that I got, and I've gotten plenty of black flags. Black flag is when you get 1 grade on a song. But it put things into perspective. I just used to eat those black flags when I got 1 or 2 grades on a song. I was just like, I just got 1 or 2 grades on a song, whatever. But I went back a few years ago, and I'll periodically play DDR Ace. And I only play the old songs, and I'll go back and play stuff just to say that I AAA'd it, because it feels a lot easier on Ace to AAA stuff. But that kind of sucks, because I think a lot of us would have had a lot more AAAs, but I would have had a lot more AAAs. Just not playing stuff over and over and over again. So, you know, this philosophy of consistency versus like playing stuff over and over again. I said this video was going to be longer because I just like this defined a lot of like who I was, and when I played DDR and how I viewed competition was like, I played 2DX, Beatmania 2DX that way. But I didn't realize like that's how everybody else was really playing DDR until I stepped back years later and looked at it. But I had a Beatmania 2DX controller, I had an arcade style controller, and I had all the older styles like 5th style, 6th style, and then I bought 7th, 8th, and 9th style when they came out. And I would do the same thing with 2DX. I would play 2DX the way most people play DDR. I wasn't doing it to be super competitive. It was very difficult to even come across 2DX in 2004. But I would sit at home and go through all of the songs on a certain difficulty and try to get AAs on everything in that difficulty. And then I would move on and try to get AAAs on everything in that difficulty. And then I would go to the next difficulty and try to get A's on 7 key and AAs on 7 key. And then I don't think I AAA'd everything on 7 key on any of the mixes, but I was like halfway through 5th style or 6th style trying to get AAAs on everything on 7 key. You know, the height of my 2DX skill level career was like I was able to AA. I AA Quasar on 7 key once, which for me was good because Quasar, the whole thing was like just a stream of like 16th note keys. And I played 2DX on speed too. Like I respected anybody who was gonna play 2DX on 1X or no speed or whatever it was called. But I did play 2DX on speed, but I played 2DX. I think I played 2DX the way that everybody else played DDR. But for me, when I played DDR, it was about competition, and it was about like if I was in a tournament competitive setting, who was gonna win. And this also came from a conversation I had with JSB back, you know, one of the many conversations I had with him about DDR. I don't think I mentioned it the last time, but JSB was from California. So like he was from California, and like we used to talk about this kind of stuff, and it was just like those AAAs never helped anybody in a tournament setting. Like you AAA something, but like if I was able to get around the same average score as you, then it wasn't gonna help you in a tournament. Like you picking colors on me and putting it on 3x or 2x and with holding the bar trying to AAA it, and I'm playing at 1x no bar. We finished playing. This was happening in tournaments all the time. I got 1 grade, you got 2 grades. Now what are you gonna do? So like that's what it was. It was like, now what are you gonna do? And if the tournament was an options tournament where you had to match options, you just wasted your song trying to AAA something on me, thinking that because I don't have AAAs that I wasn't gonna do good on it. And I just flagged it. Or I got more perfects than you did. Now I'm picking PSMO on shuffle on you, and you're not as good at it as I am. And that was it. Like you know, that this is where I really like the philosophy of like the way that I thought about DDR and Fat Axel and Jinx. Like we really like went in a different direction. I tried to do this one time. Like Adam, I think it was Adam STF who convinced me. He was like, just go try the AAA stuff one time. And this is gonna sound weird, but this is just what happened. My mind was in such a different place during this time period. Adam was like, just go try the AAA stuff, because I think he had started to try to do it a little bit. So one day I went down to Coney Island by myself. And I liked going to Coney Island Arcade. It was in Brooklyn. It was a little far away, but I did like going to Coney Island. They had memory card slots. I went to Coney Island by myself when nobody was there, and I remember picking a bunch of 8-footers and 9-footers on like 2X and 3X, and really trying to AAA. And I had AAA like within like the first 2 sets. I had AAA like 5 songs, mostly on the first try, because I had played on 1X no bar for so long. So playing on 2X, 1.5X, 3X with the bar, trying to AAA it, within like 10-15 minutes I had produced like so many AAAs, and I was like, this doesn't feel right. Like, this doesn't feel authentic for me to like go from what I was doing to getting all these AAAs. And I felt like there was no way I was gonna tell Fat Axel and Jinx that I did that. Like, I just kind of did it in private. I AAA'd a bunch of stuff. I was like, I'm never doing this again. Like, it just didn't feel, it felt dirty almost. Like, I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. And that was the one and only time I tried to play AAA. I tried to play on speed with the bar to see what it felt like to AAA, and it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel right to me. So I just never did it again, and I just went back to playing 1X. It was just that one session. I went by myself just to see what it was about, and I felt like if that was the crutch, if that was gonna like boost my skill level that much, then I didn't want part of it. I was just gonna keep doing what I was gonna do. So that's just what it was. That's the way we looked at it. We looked at it as like, you know, people were like obsessed with AAAs, you know, like the way that me and Jinx and Fat Axel looked at it was like the way that people played it over and over. It was like this weird like obsession. Like, I have to. And I think that people were just playing DDR to play DDR. You know, this is me talking like 20 years later as an adult. I'm talking from my perspective back then, but like, I understand now, like, people were just playing to play, and maybe a tournament would pop up to like these people in the Midwest, or like people in California or Florida or wherever people were playing the AAA. Like, the community was new. You know, you had all the people from Ohio, and you had people from California, and they were just playing to play and get better. And maybe a tournament would pop up, and like they would do good on a song, or like, you know, they would bring their skill level to the tournament, and a lot of them would win, you know. And I respect that now. I just don't think that these people were better than me, because like it's not that I played everybody in the country in 2004 or even 2005, but there were so many people in my region that were like this, that had AAA Extreme, Technic, Big Goblin, Pickles had come to a couple tournaments, and Pickles was one of the best in the world. Qkumbr, Chris Fire, Dino, Reflex, Big Matt. I played, J-Boy was in the 2005 Jacob Javits Center Digital Life tournament. I don't know if he was at 2004, but I had played so many people that had done this AAA thing where they would just AAA and everything. So I invited people to our events in New York, because I was very hospitable. Like, I was very competitive, but I was also like, you could come through, you can crash for the weekend, you don't even need to worry about a hotel. You know, my mom was like home, she was homebound, but my mom would talk to other people's moms. Like, Technic's mom would call my mom and check up on their son, or Reflex's parents, or like people. Like, I loved, you know, I was competitive, and I wanted people to come through. I wanted people from Ohio to come. I wanted people from Chicago to come. I wanted people from Florida to come through, but I also wasn't like a dick. Like, when people came, I was like, you could come through, you could just crash for the weekend. We'll show you around the city. take you to the arcades, we'll get something to eat. We did that. So in 2004, I was undefeated in like any all perfect attack and or options tournaments. I was undefeated. Nobody beat me in any of these tournaments. Nobody ever beat me in any of these tournaments except one person. And that was in an FYE tournament. This FYE tournament, happened, and at the time, it was me and Fat Axel and Jinx, and it was like New York or nothing. Like, only thing that mattered was New York, and we were like, it was almost like a black hole. Like, we were like imploding on ourselves, where, you know, one day Fat Axel would do something, and I'd be like, oh, okay, that's what you're trying to say. Like, he would play Max Unlimited. Fat Axel was a little bit better and a little bit more consistent than me at Max Unlimited. I used to sometimes have trouble with the step, jump in the beginning of Unlimited. That was mostly where I got my greats. If I got 3 or 4 greats, 2 out of 3 of those greats would come from that part. So Fat Axel would do something. These are my best friends, but he would do something, and I'd be like, all right, bet. So I would do something to one up him, and Jinx would come through, and he would do something. And Andre was very much slept upon. He was a great DDR player, and me and him really pushed ourselves. Like, we would do it to push ourselves, but we were also really competing with each other, where we were pushing like how fast we were able to read things on shuffle, like just sight read stuff. And this is back when most people were playing on 2x. And I know people play on a much higher speed now, but remember that in DDR Extreme, and this video, I understand this video is long, but I don't think there was any way for me to break this video up, because this was like, a lot of this stuff is important and defines who I was as a DDR player. But in Extreme, the speed mods broke up, so it was 1x, 1.5x, 2x, 3x, 5x, and 8x. There was no 2.5 or 1.5. I mean, there was a 1.5, but there was no 2.5. There was no 2.25 or 3.25 and 3.5. And I think they should have put that in DDR to allow people to choose, to give people a variety of speed, but there just wasn't. So you either played on 2x or you played on 3x if you had to jump up higher. But me and Andre were really trying to push it to the point where we wanted to be able to read. If we were gonna play on speed, it was gonna be difficult. We played on 1x, but if we were gonna play on speed, it was gonna be something that was difficult. So we were playing stuff like that was 200 beats per minute, like the Paranoias, maybe Paranoia Evolution. We were playing that on 5x shuffle. This is all shuffle. Like, it wasn't like we were stealthing this. We were playing that on 5x shuffle. We were playing it on 5x boost shuffle. We were passing it. We were playing 200 beats per minute songs on 3x boost shuffle and getting under 10 greats on it with the bar, and we were doubling it without the bar. So we were really like, we were animals. Like, we were ruthless toward each other. We were like hyenas, just you know. And this is just this is how New York City was. Like, we all grew up in the trenches, you know, like growing up in Brooklyn. Fat Axel grew up in the South Bronx, and you know, Andre Jinx, he grew up in the Bronx too. So this is where we come from. Like, this is how it is when it comes to basketball, going to school. We all millennials. We grew up in the 90s, like during a crazy era, like coming out of the crack era in New York City. So like, we grew up like that. So we're like the same mentality. We're taking it toward DDR. Like, this is when people, like, you know, you go on errand in Japan or a DDR freak, and you see people like posting up, oh, I AAA'd LOM, or I AAA'd L'Amour 3 times in a row or something like that. And to us, it was just like, fuck that. And that's no disrespect now, but like back then we were like, fuck that. Who cares? Like, who cares? Like, if they're going to pick it on me in a tournament and they're going to get 2 greats, I'm going to get 1 great, and I'm going to pick Paranoia Survivor on S4R and they're going to fail it, and I'm going to get like 20 greats on it. Who's the better player? But between us, we were like tearing each other apart. We were like going to the arcade and picking crazy options and like pushing ourselves to go forward. And this is the second time that I kind of like pulled away from the community and just kind of like was like going at it with Fat Axel and going at it with Jinx. So during this time I became a different person. Like I just had blinders on. Like I was just like, I want to become the best DDR player in terms of whoever's trying to play against me, which wound up to me at the end of it all in 2005. To me, that meant being the best in the world. But at this time, we were just like, we were lions. We were just trying to tear each other apart. I really have to emphasize that because that's what it was. It was nuts. It was a different level. We weren't playing songs over and over to AAA. We were trying to go at each other's throats. This FYE tournament happens, and it's an options tournament, and it's perfect attack. So there's no gimmicks, no like, you know, I beat you by 100 perfects and I have 1 point, and you know, you beat me by 2 perfects and you have 1 point, now we're even. That was it. Like, you had to be good at everything. There was no like, I'm not gonna be good at 10 footers, I'm just gonna pick a 7 footer on you and even it out. Nah, we're not doing any of that. So this FYE tournament happens. It's an options tournament. It's perfect attack. We're in the tournament, and you know, like when we played, another thing about me and Fat Axel and Jinx was that our adrenaline would go really high through the roof. Like we would scream. Like I have a scar on my hand from punching the DDR machine one time when I played Bemani Ruler A toward the tail end of me playing, where I got so hyped because I had double eighted that I punched the machine. Like, let's fucking go. Like, so that's how our adrenaline was. So I get on the pad and, you know, we go out. I went out there with Jinx. So he was my best friend, but like, we're on the pad. This is my enemy. Like, this is like, we're at war right now. So I'm on the pad and like, I'm rocking back and forth, pacing, and he's rocking back and forth and he's pacing. So, one of us picks Max Unlimited on 6 option, and like one of us picked Max Unlimited on 6 option, and another one of us picked like Healing Vision Angelic Mix on like 5x shuffle or 3x boost shuffle or something. So, like, in my head, I was just like, you have the audacity to think that you could even like beat me? Like, what? So like I used to grab on the pad and like stomp like with both of my feet, like boom, like not as a form of intimidation, but just like my adrenaline would just go through the roof. And I was just like, this is offensive. Like, who do you think you are to like try to even challenge me? Like, you're not beating me. And he was the same way. I would slam on the pad and he would grab on the pad and slam, let's fucking go. Like, we were screaming at each other. Let's fucking go. Let's go. And in that tournament, he beat me. This is the only person who ever beat me in that setting, in like a fair, perfect attack options tournament. And that was a good way it was like an honorable death. Because he beat me fair and square. Like the way and I'm pretty sure Andre won that tournament. But if he didn't, he can at least say he beat me that way. Because there was no gimmicks. I wasn't sick. I didn't twist my ankle. I really tried to beat him. I was really like, in the heat of the moment, I was offended. Like, who do you think you are? Like, why do you think you could beat me? Like, I'm the best. You're not beating me. But he did. And that's the way he felt. You know, and I always gave Andre a tremendous amount of respect. And I don't know if he remembers it, because Andre, shortly after this tournament, Andre kind of left the scene. Did he move down? He didn't move. I don't think he moved down. His parents moved to Florida. And I don't know if he went with them or I think he stayed in the city, but like he pulled away from DDR after that. if anybody was gonna scare the crap out of me from like randomly showing up at a tournament, it would have been Andre. Was like one of a few people. It would have been like Andre, Jinx, Reflex. When he stopped playing, I was always scared that he was gonna come back, or JSB. In my 2005 Jacob Javits Digital Life tournament, like if anybody was gonna come back, Andre would have been one of the people. If he would have showed up at a tournament, I'd have been like, fuck. Like, this would have been one of the people where I would have just been like, damn. Like I said, I'll talk more about Fat Axel in like a different video, but like the only reason that Angel wasn't more of a threat to me is because me and Angel were best friends. So I played with Angel, I trained with Angel, so I knew any song that was Angel's weakness, I knew it. But Angel was a nutcase too with the way he played and his scores. Just this particular day, Andre beat me fair and square, and that was a good way to go. And that's what I'll say. I was on MTV the next year where they followed me and they did a little mini documentary in me playing in the Jacob Javits tournament. And it's weird because I don't remember how this played out. I think in one of the clips I was like, I'm undefeated in all fair options tournaments. And I don't know if I mentioned Andre and they cut it out or I just forgot about it, but like that wasn't true. That's the one thing that I said in that little mini documentary that wasn't accurate, because Andre is the only person who ever beat me when I was like at the top of my game, that felt like he actually earned the win, where he was better than me that day. He was just better than me that day. And Andre went on to be like, to just go largely unrecognized because he wasn't really into all the forums, and none of us really were. We were very much rebellious against this AAA obsession that everybody was in. But I still tried to kind of dip my toe in the community. I would be on Aaron in Japan and I would be on DDR Freak, even though like we were very anti a lot of that stuff and the direction that the community was going. But Andre really wasn't into that stuff. He would go on Aaron. One time me and him went on Aaron in Japan with a bunch of like option scores, and we just acted like we were fake arguing on the forums, and at the end of it we put up a bunch of crazy scores and then we just left, so I just do want to give Andre credit for that. And he is one of the best friends that I've ever had. Like, he was in my wedding. We hung out countless times together, having a good time at his house. We've, been on trips together in terms of like bachelor parties and like, great times. But like, he did beat me. He is the only person who's ever actually legitimately beat me, where he was better than me at that particular time period. For that tournament. For that particular tournament, he was better than me. So, this is one of the more important videos. I probably have like a few videos left in this whole series before I would like wrap it up. But 2004 and the competition and the way 2004 was defined me as a DDR player and as sketch as a lot of people know me. So if you enjoyed this video, let me know, and I'll be back with another one soon.